Hey resellers, welcome back to Lava City Threads. I'm Alveraz. I'm a full-time clothing and shoes reseller. We have a ton of brands coming up today. Lots of what's sold over the last week. New BOLOS, definitely a few brands to look out for, a few brands that are new to me. Maybe they're new to you. Let's see if it can help you a little bit. Quick note, if you watched our last What Sold video, we held a contest. And it looks like there's probably, 20 to 30 of you that entered the contest. So I listed that item today. And so once it sells, I will do an update on that following Monday to let you know who won a $50 item out of one of my stores. If you haven't already, subscribe because I want to keep doing those contests. But anyway, let's get to work. Here we have a Rockin' Republic pants, women's size 4, blue Banshee. Pretty ugly looking pants there, I don't know, but hey, they sold 24 bucks and they sold in 10 days. Rockin' Republic's a pretty solid brand to look out for. It's really nothing special. It used to sell a lot faster. So it can take a little bit. This one took only 10 days, but I think that's because it's a little bit more of a unique piece. Even though they were slim, they still work if you can find the zippers and something a little bit out of the ordinary about the pants. Here's the label here. But anyway, those sold in 10 days. Next up, my old bread and butter, that's Nike. If you guys watch this channel at all, you know I sell a lot of Nike. My favorites are usually Nike Pro or Nike Combat Pro. I like to pick up a lot of those items. But I will pick up kind of standard Nike items as well. With that said, something like this one, as you can see, it's a pretty standard looking piece, outside of it being a Nike Pro. So I probably, just to kind of clarify, I probably wouldn't have picked this up if it was just Nike without Nike Pro, right? But since it was Nike Pro, I picked it up. Here's what you're looking for. You get some extra keywords like Nike warm, it is fitted, and they're just a little bit stronger pieces in Nike's brands. Nike's lines, styles. Nike Pro Hyper Warm, fitted, quarter zip, pull over. Make sure you're getting your keywords in there, athletic, running, so forth. So that was listed for $29.97. We sold it in 22 days over on Whatnot for $23. So we took an offer there on Whatnot. And I don't know about you guys, but ever since Nifty took on Whatnot. I use Nifty, by the way. It's a cross-lister where I'm able to cross-list all of my items to 6 different stores. If you'd like to check that out, you can look at the link below. I think I have a discount down there for it if you want to check it out. I think you get a free trial for like 7 days. So if you've got like 200 items or so in your store, be sure to check it out. But anyway, this sold over on Whatnot, and ever since Nifty opened up Whatnot as one of the cross-listers, it was slow going for me for at least the first month, but now I'm starting to see sales, 5 or 6 a week. Nothing great there on Whatnot, but at least it's picking up, and that's a nice way to supplement your other stores, right? So it's a little bit more on the Mercari level of sales right now, but we shall see what happens there. My biggest platforms that I sell the most on are going to be eBay, Poshmark, and Depop. And then Mercari, Whatnot, and Etsy kind of lift up the back end there. I would say FD. FD. I'm combining stores. I would say Etsy's pretty amazing too, because Etsy probably has my highest sale price, or not sale price, highest profit per item, only because I get a lot of vintage on there. I sell a lot of vintage on there. That's really all you can sell in clothing on Etsy, but I get a lot of overseas buyers. So we'll have a couple of those Etsy sales here coming up. So that's that Nike piece there. Here we got an APL Techloom Pro running shoe. And it's Propellium knit sneakers, 6.5. I like to get around 7 to 12 is kind of the nice space I like to be in with sizes. But I took a shot on these because I had looked them up and I had seen some interesting comps on them. This is the first time I found this brand, first time I'm selling this brand. So I'm not necessarily going to call it a bolo yet, but make sure you're looking out for it. Well, I guess be on the lookout. But APL, let's see, these sold in 18 days, and I got an offer for $34.40, and I took it. Listed it for $43.97. Next up we have, it says up here, you know, Depop's really weird. They like to put in their own titles after you put in what you listed it for, what your title is. So these are sailor stripe wide leg pants, right? They were unlabeled, they had nothing. They listed it as the unbranded brand, but that's not really what these are. These are just unlabeled, so this is a style pickup, if you will. Because they're wide, baggy, they had kind of an interesting look to them. I immediately got a lot of engagement from most of the stores, so I knew these were going to go. And they took off in 18 days, and I sold them for $28 on an offer. They were $35. And a couple notes. One, my average cost of goods is $2. Unless I say something otherwise during all of these, just kind of remember that I'm paying about $2. So it's really going to depend what you're picking up, obviously, and what you're going to sell your item for based on your cost of goods. So I hope you're taking that into consideration, especially when I'm giving you brands to look at. And I'll mention to you if it's something I wouldn't have picked up at like $5 or $8 or more. And I know a lot of you guys do your sourcing at thrift stores. I would say I source at thrift stores maybe 10%, something like that. So I don't do a lot of thrift stores. But if you are sourcing at thrift stores, make sure you're obviously, especially if it's Goodwill, you're comparing that to your business model and making sure that you have a strong margin there. These here, this was kind of a risk, right? But I saw the style right away and was like, you know, the kids are picking this stuff up left and right. I'm seeing these kind of baggy stuff. Especially if you can get that kind of sailor nautical look to them, they're probably going to go. So make sure you're looking them up. And if you can't look them up, you might want to take a risk on something like this. Next up, we have Neat Products Inc. jacket. And this is a camo, and this is the tiger stripe camo, right? So anytime I see camo that is in the tiger stripe pattern, I'm taking an extra look usually because it's a little bit more of a unique camo and a lot of people are picking it up. I live in Central Oregon, as I've mentioned 100 times on this channel, and we have a lot of outdoor activities, especially hunting and fishing. So I'm able to get these at pretty good cost of goods. Again, this one, $2 cost of goods. And here's the label you're looking for on that. You know, I thought this was vintage, but I think it turned out that it wasn't. It's still a company, though, that's making their products in the USA, so that's kind of cool. But just camo in general, especially right now as we start entering into stronger hunting seasons around the country, make sure you're checking them out and looking them up. Don't pass on camo. That was listed for $57.57 and I sold it for $54.69, probably because I had a sale on the store. I don't think that was on offer. I think it just came with like a 10%, 5 or 10% discount there. Sold in 40 days. I had a big haul out of a locker pickup that I recently did. I think I mentioned this last week, but I was able to negotiate a really good deal on a storage unit. I said locker, I meant storage unit that had tons of camo and hunting gear in it. So I'm just now starting to see those move. Next up, we have a J. Crew, pretty bread and butter stuff. J. Crew shirt, men's, blue, lightweight, chambray, cotton, long sleeve, pocket preppery. You know, anytime I'm seeing chambray or I'm seeing denim in shirts, I'm always taking an extra look and it's not really that brand dependent, to be honest with you. If you can get a hold of some chambray and denim, and the other nice thing is they do sell all year long for me anyway. So maybe you're seeing the same thing, but anyway, here's what you're looking for. Right there, J. Crew isn't something I always pick up. It's pretty style dependent, but I will grab this, and now you know the answer to if I iron my shirts or not. I don't. I always talk about that. I'm a mess when it comes to that. That just comes in time with experience over time. You start to realize, oh, I have to save time in certain areas. I've never had a return, or I've never had an abundance of leftover inventory, and while looking at the images, notice that it's because they weren't ironed. You know, if I started seeing trends like that where a lot of my leftover inventory was unironed images, I'd have a problem with that, right? Obviously, and then I'd be steaming more and ironing, which I used to do years ago, and then realized, wait a minute, nobody really cares. You might get a few passes on that, but if it's a strong item and if you're sourcing correctly and you're grabbing the right brands and the right styles, you don't need to worry about it. It's going to sell. With that said, Make sure your titles, make sure your keywords, descriptions, pictures are all on point. That's what's really going to help you. Vintage Cape Isle Knitter's Cardigan, women, burgundy plaid. This is mohair blend. And I don't know, it was just a really cute kind of piece. I was going to hold off a little bit on this because it had kind of a holiday look, but I wanted to give it a shot, and it worked. And usually with mohair, you're going to do okay. So mohair. Mohair is it's an Angora goat, I believe. But you have to be careful here because I've seen a couple, not recent YouTubers, but recent resellers who got this a little confused because they saw Angora and immediately went with goat and mohair. You can easily mix it up. Angora, if you see it listed as Angora, it usually means rabbit. However, mohair is Angora too, but it's Angora goat. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I think I'm right on that. You can double check me on that, but pretty close. Here's the label you're looking for, but again, this is vintage, so probably hard to find. So you're really kind of just looking for substantial pieces, especially if they're mohair wool. They have something special going on with that, especially if you can catch it. If you can grab one of these with the kind of chore pockets, cardigan, buttons up, it's a no-brainer for the winter and the holidays coming up. So listed it for 41 bucks. And I got 41 bucks for it, and I sold it in 5 days. So maybe I listed this a little bit under market value. I don't quite remember my thought process on that. Tommy Bahama maxi dresses. I don't know about you guys, but I sell these pretty much all year. And anytime I come across a Tommy Bahama maxi dress, I don't even bother looking them up anymore, to be honest with you. I just grab them. Not everything Tommy Bahama sells, but Tommy Bahama maxis. Well, you know, I think I have a midi that sold recently too. I don't remember. Maybe you guys remember if you've been watching my videos. If you haven't, why not? Please subscribe for me, okay? And keep watching. I do a lot of men's, women's, outdoors. I kind of cover a lot of bases, and shoes. So I'm able to give you kind of a wider, a broader idea of different brands that are selling across different categories. Tommy Bahama medium. Anyway, pick these up. This is just kind of a simple one. Right, listed it for $33.27. This sold in 36 days and for $29.94. So it was either a sale, or I might have taken an offer if you had a kind shopper there that was being cool and just taking a couple bucks off, but I doubt it. Next up, we have this vintage Stenay plus dress, a plus size dress, a size 18. This was pure silk, and it was beaded and sequin, and it was substantial, and it was thick and heavy. And this one, I got it in the estate sale. And it's always uncomfortable and well, not uncomfortable because I'm getting used to it. So maybe it should be uncomfortable. But a lot of these estate sales, people's parents pass away and their grandparents pass away, and the kids are just trying to get rid of everything. And that was the case here. And this is, here we go, Stenay Plus. It was made in India, 100% silk. But you know, I was just kidding around with this with my girlfriend recently, but I've been selling a lot of granny core, if you will, and like cruise wear, vacation wear, but more of the like 80s styles and 90s. So keep an eye on that, because it wasn't always that way over the last few years. Last couple years I've been selling women's, and it wasn't that way a couple years ago when I started women's. I've been selling men's for a lot longer. But anyway, women's, it wasn't always like that. So I'm starting to see a potential trend here where I'm seeing a lot of these 80s and 90s kind of vacation, glam, bigger shoulder pads. I think that's probably pretty key to this. If you're finding vintage pieces with shoulder pads, just take an extra look at the label. You'll usually find a few on there. This one didn't have a ton, but they were still moving, and they were moving recently. Anyway, cruise wear, beaded, listed it for 89 bucks, guys. Let's see. What did I sell it for? Sold it for $85.47 in 23 days. You know, that's just... And how many of you guys are passing these up? I bet you a lot of you guys are passing these up out there in the stores, and so are shoppers. But I'm telling you, there's an audience for this stuff. There's a market for it. Jordan men's navy hoodie. This is the UNC Tar Heels, University of North Carolina Tar Heels. Anytime you can find like a Division I and Nike and Jordan and another kind of really nice brand, and it feels substantial, heavy cotton, go ahead and take an extra look. But Division I colleges, especially right now as we're about to enter into football season, keep a good eye on those. UNC's, I think, a little bit more basketball based, but hey, we're entering that too. And of course, you get Jordan. And this was on a yard sale that I think I had mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but it was a family whose daughter had decided to go to UNC, and then they bought all this gear in celebration of that. And then after her freshman year, she quit she transferred to another school. I don't remember what university it was. And so they had to like get rid of all this stuff, and they were a little bit bitter about it because they had spent a ton of money on all this great gear. But anyway, lucky for me, I got tons of UNC relatively new hoodies and all kinds of stuff. So I'm still selling those pretty consistently. Listed that for $38.97 on Depop and sold it for got asking for it, $38.97, and it sold in 27 days. So nice flip there. Next up, we have some Allbirds, and this is definitely a brand you want to look out for. Anytime I find Allbirds in the wild, I go ahead and pick them up. Allbird shoes, even if they're a little bit scuffed up, I don't clean shoes. It's one of those systems I decided to just get rid of and stop doing it. I'm not going to say it didn't affect sales though. There's definitely a correlation between me not cleaning shoes and slower sales, but they do sell. They just take longer to sell. And I'm willing to do that because I do have the space in my inventory to do that with shoes, but I also have to regulate shoes. In fact, right now I am slowing down picking up shoes right now, mostly because I got a garage full of boots that I picked up over the spring and summer that I'm about to list for fall and winter. But back to these are some new Allbirds, super light. They're wool and they're really light, and people love them. So these were listed at $55.97 and sold for $50.37 and over at Mercari. So look at that, Mercari trying to sell some stuff for me. Pretty cool. Next up, we have some Cowgirl Tough Co jeans, $29.33. Don't fence me in, barbed wire, Western rodeo. That's because it said that, I think, on one of these. But here's what you're looking for. When I pick these up, there it is. Don't fence me in. So when I pick these up, there's my ugly fingernail. Always drives me crazy. So these are kind of a weird pickup for me because I'd heard about Cowgirl Tough Co. It was like somewhere in the back of my head, but I'd never picked them up or seen them in the wild, which is weird because I'm in Central Oregon and we have a lot of this kind of style up here. But they felt substantial right away. So look up Cowgirl Tough if you do run into it. Maybe you already do. Maybe you've sold plenty of these, but I hadn't. What kind of sucked is there was a couple little flaws. It wasn't a flaw though. See, that's what was kind of strange, but at least I got it in here. The seam was broken here, but it's because I don't know. I think they have this. If you look at this, and you can tell me if you have experience with this, but see how it's folded in there? I'm not sure if that was meant to be something where you can then clip it to open up to get more flare going down at the bottom since it's a boot cut. I'm curious if you guys have ever seen that before. I've never seen that before. So anyway, take a look at that. Cowgirl Tough. Let me know. Listed them for $38.97 and sold them for $37, and it only took 9 days. So make sure you guys are looking up that brand, okay? Next up, we have some Miss Me jeans. If you can find them, always look up Miss Me. It's just one of those brands that continuously seems to do well, especially if you can find ones that have either like the fleur-de-lis image on the back. If you don't know what that is, look up like New Orleans Saints. It's like their logo, that football team. Or they have like angels on them and flap pockets. Somebody last week said flat pockets. No, flap with a P. So here's a flap. You want to make sure you're looking for those flaps. You're looking for that kind of heavy embroidery. But you know what? Frankly, most Miss Me's are going to sell. These are skinny too, and I'm not a big skinny guy right now. I'm sorry, I'm not big on buying a lot of skinny pants right now, but I know Miss Me's with some flat pockets are probably going to go. Not for a ton of money. Well, some of them will. This one listed for 31 bucks, and I was able to get rid of them for 31 bucks. However, it did take 74 days. Anything under 90 days, I'm stoked on. I'm happy. So 74 is still not bad, but as you can tell, Miss Me's are a really nice brand to look at, but not as great as they were. What's new? It's just one of those jeans brands, but it'll start picking up here now that we're heading into fall. So if you've got your Miss Me's sitting on the sides, it's time to get them going. Speaking of which, here's 11 Levi's denim Western shirt. You're definitely going to want to get these listed, especially right now. This one even had a little flaw, as you can see down here, which I point out in one of the pictures. Make sure you guys are doing that, pointing these out. Okay, save you guys the hassle of a return. This was listed for $36.97 and it sold for $35, and it sold in 1 day, so I probably could have got more for it. The reason I could have got more for it and I didn't is probably because of the sawtooth pockets. It's pearl snap. It's in relatively great condition. I just didn't like the flaw. The flaw bothered me. I'm noticing flaws are bothering more and more as I get through this business, and I think that's because I'm sourcing better. As you get experienced in this, you just start recognizing flaws quickly. You start in an effort to make your systems a little bit more efficient. You want to reduce returns. So you just start getting to a place where these things stick out a little bit more and more. But again, Levi's, denim, this is kind of workwear anyway. A lot of people are cool with fading and spots and this kind of thing on certain pieces. And this is one of those types of pieces here. Here's the tag you're looking for. Next up, we have some BKE Stellas. If you've watched this channel at all, I pick up Stellas all the time, and I usually get about the same price, anywhere from 20 to 25 bucks. They usually flip pretty quickly. However, not on Mercari, but good job, Mercari, stepping up your game there. I actually sold a few on Mercari this week, so not bad. They took 74 days, and I got 22 bucks, but I always know that I'll usually sell my BKE Stellas in under that 90-day mark. Okay, and I price them a little bit below market. I'll price them above market a little bit as if it's like the summer, right? Because I know that by the time it hits fall, I have a sales process where I'm taking 10% off every month. So by the time it hits fall, I'm hitting that kind of 20 to 25 bucks that I'm looking for. BKE Denim Stella, there's a tag you're looking for. I wish Mercari didn't do this. They put this big black band over sold items, but there it is. Next up, I'm sure you guys know this brand. This is Lily Pulitzer. It's a sweater, and it's Argyle V-neck, palm tree, preppy coastal. Some of you guys probably pick this up a lot more than I do. I don't find Lily Pulitzer that much, so it's become one of those BOLOS for me, where I'm always out looking for Lily Pulitzer. So when I find it, I'm usually grabbing it, and I'm usually able to get it sold pretty quickly, but I get it once, maybe twice a quarter if I'm lucky. This one was a no-brainer, of course, because it had so many cool things going for it, especially the Argyle and the kind of preppy thing going, and as we're entering into fall. So listed it for 31 bucks there and sold it for 31 bucks. Got asking for it after 30 days. So make sure you're looking up Lily Pulitzer if you are not already. Next up, we have some Vioris, some meta pants. Anytime you're finding Viori, some like to say it's the new Lululemon, but I think they've been around as long? Maybe not as long. I don't know. Maybe you can correct me on that, but anytime I find Lululemon more than I do Viori. When I find Viori, I'm sure to pick it up. Be careful on a couple things. The first thing is, you can't see it here. Can I see it in one of these? Maybe I can see it in this one. Yeah, there it is. They have a V here, but I've been confused before on this and accidentally picked up what's called a brand called Velocity. And it was because it didn't have a hit on it where it said Viori. So I took a shot on it, and they just have similar logos. So that's all that tip is just to make sure you double check that it is Viori. And look them up. Style number here. And some, fabric tag, whatever. Anyway, make sure you're looking at Viori, most activewear, especially men's, of course. And listed that for 47 bucks, and we got 47 bucks, and it only took 51 days. Not bad there. Here we have some Nike free trainers, and these are Oregon Ducks. because I'm in Central Oregon, so I get a lot of Oregon University stuff. And anytime you can find something like Nike and a collab with a D1 school, take an extra look. And I say D1 because that's just the more popular universities where you're going to find their sports are just heavy influencers and pull a lot of demand. Okay, so your local colleges, this kind of stuff, I'd really pass on that stuff because you're just not going to have the demand out there. But here's some Nike Oregon ones. They were not in great condition at all. Listed them for $26. They sold for $26 and it only took 30 days, but that just tells you a lot of these fans of these colleges and especially their sports programs can be pretty rabid. Here's an Etsy sale here. It's a vintage Abercrombie & Fitch camouflage cargo shorts. I don't pick up a lot of Abercrombie & Fitch, but when I can find it vintage, I certainly do. Or if I can find a lot of hits on it, which gives me a lot of keywords, something really cool like a big spell out or something weird about it that reminds me of those 90s days when I would see that stuff all over the place. It just kind of will bring back a memory that'll catch me. And I'll look it up. But you know what? I am seeing some new Abercrombie. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments. Are you seeing Abercrombie newer models selling too? Because I just started seeing that recently where I'm seeing more Abercrombie starting to get picked up. So let's all keep an eye out. Here's a label there. Just some kind of camouflage shorts. But you know, the older Abercrombie, man, it's got a really nice substantial feel to it. And you can just tell right away. Listed those for $31.97 and we sold them for $28.77 and they sold in 46 days. Here we go with a vintage Lee's, separate Lee's blazer. I just love picking up old vintage blazers, especially if it's a recognizable brand. Be careful with blazers though. They are definitely not all created equal and you can get sucked into certain brands that you think sell really well, but they really don't. Some general rules of thumb, maybe if you can find like dark navy blazers with gold buttons, take an extra look inside, check that pocket, see what it is. It could be like a vintage Ralph Lauren or it can be a Zegna. Well, no, I don't think Zegna makes those, but Zegna is a brand that, you know, you're gonna Amigliolio Zegna. I don't know, I can never pronounce that first part, so I just call them Zegnas. But if you can find a Zegna blazer, there's certain blazers you want, there's certain ones you don't. So make sure you're looking them up. If I'm finding a vintage Lee, I'm definitely checking it out, especially because it's just got all this kind of cool extra stuff, those big giant pockets, and it has this kind of, I don't know if those are epaulets or what's going on up there, but that's kind of cool. What's happening here? I don't know what I did. What did I do? Oh, okay, I think I just pressed... click it. But anyway, here's a tag. Make sure you're getting all the tags, even the union tags listed there. And if you need help kind of finding the years, I have found, like when the production year was, I have found running union labels through AI has helped me lately really kind of narrow down what potential year a lot of these items are. Of course, this one had enough information where I was able to ensure that it was vintage. Listed that for $28, and we got $28 on it. Not bad in 82 days. So not a ton of money there, of course, on that particular blazer. Some blazers you're going to get a lot of money. You can do really, really well, but that one not so much. Here's a vintage Ralph Lauren polo beach towel, which I love it. Gosh, it's so cool. And I love unique Ralph Lauren pieces. I don't know if you guys have ever came across one of these, but this was actually at a yard sale. What was interesting is I had went up and bought a bunch of this guy's like old vintage clothing and stuff. And as I'm walking out, I see this towel wrapped around a mirror that he was selling. He wasn't selling the towel. He was using the towel to wrap like a vintage mirror he was selling. And I could only see like a little piece of this towel. The way it was bunched up or wrapped around this mirror, it gave me a little thing. But being around Ralph Lauren for so long and it being so like bread and butter and entrenched in our reselling clothing industry, that I just spotted like this little part here of this guy and was like, that's Ralph Lauren, I think. And went over there, kind of pulled on it a little bit and figured out that it was indeed Ralph Lauren. And I asked him if he's willing to get rid of the towel, and he's all, sure, man, just give me $1 for it or something like that. Anyway, listed it for $50, and we got 50 bucks for it, and it took about 47 days to sell. So Ralph Lauren, even the weird stuff, check it out. Here's a Columbia sportswear women's jacket, and I don't pick up a ton of Columbia, really. I mean, it depends what it is, especially if it's got interesting stuff like this. You can see the pattern here on this, and I do always take an extra look at Omnitex. I just need to make sure with Columbia, it's important. The condition is pretty important with Columbia. Now, with that said, I've sold some Columbias that had some small issues with them and stains, but they take a lot longer to sell. I don't know if you've had the same experience, but that's been my experience. If I can get them in really good condition and they are Omnitech and they maybe have a cool pattern like this kind of like a Southwestern, maybe geometric pattern, I'm going for it. And these, after looking up the style name, these were Arcadia 2s. Listed it for $32.97, and it sold for $27. So I did take an offer on it, probably a 20% offer there. And days listed for 19 days, so not bad there. And as you can tell, or you might start noticing here, as we're going through some of this stuff, fall is happening. Start getting your fall and your winter listed. And if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, I haven't been around that long, probably a couple months now, but you'll know that I sell a lot of scrubs. Probably like 4 or 5 brands. This is one of them. And anytime you can find like a lot of scrubs that are the same size, I like to lot them up, because nurses, doctors, medical industry folks, they go through these pretty quickly. But they also like to get solid scrubs that have a really good feel to them. They're in them all day. They're good workwear, stuff that you could also wash bodily fluids, frankly, out of, and so forth. So anyway, I sell a good amount of these. Here's a lot of 3. Janu is one of the brands. Actually, I don't pick up a ton of Janu. I will if I find like a lot of them, but this brand does okay. Listen, so I mean, it took me 3 different suits to get 43 bucks, but again, I picked this up for next to nothing. Look at some of the comments here. What are some of the comments here? I can't tell if the patterns are... Anyway, I'm going to get out of the comments. Okay, a lot of 3 Janu scrubs, multicolor, and listed them for 43 bucks, and we sold them for 43 bucks, and it took about 60 days. Next up, we have some Wrangler women's. These are the MWZs. I talk about them a lot on this channel. I'm usually picking up WMZs. These ones are kind of, yeah, if I remember right, this one had a tag here, right? But a lot of the time you will find it's saying WMZ right inside this area. You just have to unzip them and pull back this part of the zipper and you will see a label. I'm sure most of you guys know this, but if you're new to reselling, you might not, and find kind of the longer tag that's in there sewn on to the actual jeans itself. And MWZs, there's a few models I like, but MWZs I tend to sell the most of in Wranglers, and not for great money, but they're bread and butter, and that's what bread and butter is all about, right? That's building your foundation of your store, finding those brands and styles that you know, hey, if I can pick them up under $5, this is one of those moments that I'm not picking up WMZs for over $5, but if you can get them around that price, 5 or under, all day long, really nice bread and butter. And these were listed there for 25 bucks, which is about right. Sold them for for 21 bucks, which is about right. And sold them in 69 days, which is about right. Next up, we have some vintage Hang 10 board shorts on this good looking fella here. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna start that over. Okay, here we have some vintage Hang 10 board shorts, blue stripe retro surfwear trunks. 70s, 80s. These were in really good condition. Listed them for 39 bucks and sold them for 39 bucks in 85 days. And here they are there, just some shorty shorts. I knew there'd be some fellas out there that were interested in these. And sure enough, got rid of them. Kind of cool though, right? If you're into shorty short shorts. There you go. Next up, we have some military filled trousers. These are the Woodland and these are the M65s, right? M65s are especially hot and they do really well. They just have a really substantial feel to them, lots of pockets, and they're just kind of one of the more old school military styles. that a lot of people really like. And I've noticed, you know, when you find these out there, by the way, you can see how you can kind of see the print here. Just a real tip, a little tip for you is when you first get these, this kind of pilling, if you will, I guess it's pilling over the labels happens a lot, and it's really difficult to read the words on these labels. What I do, and I always have this handy anyway, is a little tiny cup of water and then a little rag. I'll take that, dip it in there, and wipe over that tag, and it kind of gives you an opportunity to take a better picture so you can get more of the words, so you can see the words. So this is actually wet. It doesn't really look wet, but it was almost impossible to see. So trousers, cold weather, field, 50% nylon, 50% cotton. These were listed for 40 bucks, and we got 32 bucks on it. I think that was an offer, and it took 37 days over on eBay. Next up, we have some Nike SB Blazer Zoom low men's sneakers at 10.5, so it's a really good size. Red canvas skater shoes. Again, you can tell that I don't do a ton of washing on these, but what's nice about the SBs, and that's skateboarding, by the way, Nike skateboarding, Blazer low, and they have different items in the SB, right? Different shirts and different hoodies, all kinds of Nike stuff, SB, but it's always if you catch that SB, do an extra look into it. You'll probably be able to get rid of it, and it's usually in pretty high demand. And there they are, Blazer low, but as I was saying, you can tell that I don't really wash shoes, but I don't think these, let's see how long these stuck around. Listed them for $22.97, wanted to just move those fast and blow them out, and they sold for $22.97, and it only took 27 days, so there you go. Make sure you're getting that tag in, by the way. This one here on any Nikes, because it gives you all the information you need and helps out your shopper. Here we go, some just black denim wide leg jean. These were just mostly a style-based buy. In fact, offhand, I don't remember what the sell-through rate is. If you're into sell-through rate, that's fine. Maybe you want to look these up first. I didn't check that, but I did check demand. You know, that's just a quick check between what's listed and what's sold, and the demand was fine, or it fit my business model, especially at the price that I'm paying for. I'm paying for $2 on these. But these particular styles, I'll pick up in a lot of different brands because I'm just able to get rid of them, and these are pretty hot right now, especially going back to school. And here's the label here, just black denim, made in USA. You can't beat that. I got a measurement of the rise, of course, and there's the inseam, and like I said earlier, I do like to get usually the opening of the leg here. And what you're looking for in wide is at least 8 inches, you know, so if I can get like 8 to 11 inches, which you just check as you're sourcing, you know, just kind of give a rough estimate there, you're probably going to do pretty good. So barrel leg, wide leg, and so forth, you're going to do pretty cool. And these have those like kind of chore pockets on the front. These are called something, aren't they? And I don't remember what they're called. If you know, will you remind me? Throw it down in the listing below, but they're called something. This particular style with these types of pockets on the front, and I just don't remember what it is. Okay, well, there you go. Listed for $32.97, and we got $26, so I did take an offer on those. Sold in 22 days. Next up, we have this Boulder Creek cargo vest. Again, Central Oregon. I have a lot of activities up here, outdoor activities, including fishing and hunting. And these kinds of vests I pick up all day long for $2. Most brands I will pick up if it's like this and if it's got a really strong feel to it. And a Boulder Creek is no exception, and especially this size, it's a 5XL. That might be a little bit big, but still, bigger sizes usually do better for me or move faster for me. Boulder Creek cargo vest, ripstop too. Ripstop's important if you can find that, all the better. Here's the back. What usually on something like, well, this is more fishing, but you'll find on the hunting ones, you'll get a sack back here where they will, you know, they could put their ducks, pheasants, whatever they're hunting. And again, I just like in most tops, I like to get neck to hem and pit to pit measurements thrown in there. Avoids returns and avoids questions. Again, anything you can do to make your systems more efficient, do it. That's one of them. Takes you 2 seconds. And I'm telling you, those questions and returns, they compound over time. So try to reduce those. Listed that for $33. and we sold it for 33 bucks. We got asking on that one. It took 32 days, so not a bad pickup there. If you guys have been watching this channel for a while, you know that I pick up a lot of 511s. We have that out here, or I'm able to just source that a lot out here. And what I'm getting better at is recognizing some of the 511s that are better than others. And these tactical strike ones with this particular model do really well. So make sure you're looking at your 511s first, because they don't sell as great as they used to, but they're kind of technical, very specific models like this one do really well. And here's the tactical strikes, and as you can see, it has kind of like thicker belt loops, ripstop. They just look better, you know, and you'll kind of feel it. You'll feel the difference, because if you picked up 511 before, kind of like the standard ones, they'll sell, but they'll take a while. Ugh, you don't need to sit there and look at my fingernail. And anyway, here's the label here, and all you have to do is just make sure you're getting your style numbers there. That's what I was trying to show you there. And here's the composition. Listed them for $43.97, and we got 35 bucks for those. So keep an eye out on 511. Still look them up. They don't all sell as good as the other ones. I don't know. This was just a cute sweatshirt. It says sunshine and coffee. Who doesn't like sunshine and coffee? And I think it had kind of a, it was like embroidered, right? So it had like this embroidered yarn thing going over it. Listed this for $23. Let's see how long it sat for. And it only took 40 days to sell at 23 bucks, so I'll take that all day. Nice quick pickup, kind of cute. Here is that yarn kind of embroidery I was telling you about, like a rope, maybe? Maybe I should have used rope. I don't know. Here's some Dickies, skateboarding, Vincent Alveraz, Ballam, regular, Ballam, what's Ballam? Gosh, I don't even know some of these goofy keywords I come up with. Here's the thing is I leverage AI now to help me with keywords, and that was one of the keywords that came up. I don't know, maybe that's part of his name. Is it Vincent Alveraz Ballam? Could be. Anyway, so once I saw Alveraz, my name's Alveraz, I saw that, I was like, intriguing. And then of course you start looking a little bit different, you start looking a little bit deeper, and you'll see Dickies skateboarding. Definitely take an extra look, because that's just an sort of out of the ordinary Dickies piece. And then you start looking it up a little bit more and find out that they are actually related to a skater. Here's what was interesting about these. So there's something interesting about these. Oh, this is a return. These didn't fit somebody. I got a return based on a does not fit, and then listed them again, and they sold pretty quickly again. But they sold twice. And let's see. Listed them for 32 bucks, and I got 32 bucks on them, and it only took 13 days. Here's a really cool one, probably my favorite of this whole what's sold. And these are some rare vintage lollipop union suits. These are called union suits. You can look them up, and it's just, you know, it just reminds me of those old Disney movies, well, the old grandpas and grandmas running around in this with their two-barrel shotgun, you know, running out onto the porch. And I think this one has that butt flap too, which I think, I called it a butt flap, but I think it's called a trap door. Here it is. Here you can see back here, but this was cool, and there wasn't many around, so I knew I could jack up the price a little bit. Frankly, I should have jacked it up probably closer to 100 bucks, but I wanted somebody to get one of these, and I wanted it to go fast. Here's the label, Lollipop 38, and listed these for $48.97. Hopefully I got that. I think they sold for $46.52, but that's because I had, I think, a 5 cents or 5% or 10% sale going. Here's the problem. I sold them the same day. So they sold the same day listed, so I was sniped there again. And you know, and this is just another tip. If you're looking around and you're not seeing them listed or any sold, that doesn't mean the demand doesn't exist, because that was the situation here, if memory serves. And I was just kind of taking a shot on the age of it, because I did look them up, and it was 60s. And I was also looking at other comps of kind of vintage thermal pajamas, and you know, they were running anywhere from 50 bucks to 200 bucks, frankly. Some of them were pretty insane. And I went on the lower end, so I might have beat myself up there a little bit, but kind of a cool piece, right? Next up, we have this Nat Nast Western shirt. I don't usually pick up Nat Nast, but this one's pretty cool, and it had a lot of neat stuff on it. And it had the kind of double stitching on it. I'm trying to find the label here for you. Here we go. Oh, not a great picture of the label, but that's what you're looking for there. Reducing your systems and making them more efficient can sometimes hurt you. And this was one of those situations where it got me because I was moving so fast and I was jamming around to so many sales that day that when I'm like, hey, how much you want for this whole rack? You know, and this is always a great tip too, is make sure that if you're going to bigger sales, yard sales, estate sales, and so forth, that you first get an idea of how many items can I bulk and then make an offer. It just makes things go a little bit easier. And I did that in this situation. I said, hey, what if I bought all 40 of these shirts? What kind of deal would you make me? And he's I'll do a quarter each. I was like, deal. I wish I would have gone through each one a little better because all I was doing was going through tags, right? And the tags were perfect. They all added up exactly how I wanted them. It was a lot of vintage old Western pearl snaps, so it was a no-brainer for me. Unfortunately, when I got home, and here's the point of the story, this long-winded story, is as you can see, there's these snags in them. And it turned out to be snags in almost all of them. Why I started figuring it out is there was a cat involved. So there was a cat scratching all of these shirts. He had them hanging in a certain way, and this cat was just like, you know, sharpening his claws or whatever on all his shirts. So I had snags in all these shirts. However, I still listed the ones that I could kind of salvage. Like this one only had a few little snags on it, and it still went. Listed it for $26.97, and we got $22 for it, and it took 19 days. But I bet if I didn't have those snags in it, I probably would have listed it for about 40. Got somewhere in the mid 30s maybe, and probably would have sold a little bit faster. Next up, and this is, I said that Union suit was my favorite, but it might actually be this one. And this is a vintage Sunset Empire Seabeers Peter Iredale patch vest. And these are just all keywords because it just had all these super cool patches from like the 60s through 80s on them, I would say, and little pins. And what was interesting is I got this at a barn sale, like an actual barn. I'm in Central Oregon, but this is this giant barn, and this guy was just selling, like he had like tons of like old trucker hats and stuff. So I was kind of in heaven because this is my favorite stuff, right? Like I'll sell all the brands and all that stuff and the Nike and what have you. But when I can get into these kind of, so I don't know if you guys have ever seen that show, American Pickers, but I get into that kind of mode, right? Where you're just feeling kind of excited about getting into the old Americana kind of just cool old stuff. And that's what this was. And each patch kind of had its own little story to it. You know, beware, smoking in the air, dirty old men patch. Just a lot of really weird patches, but kind of cool. Dirty old men need love too. I don't know. What's that say? Look what he did. He put like a screw on here and it says, a little screw hurts no one. What's this? Sex is not a spectator sport. Okay, so he had a lot of strange, potentially uncomfortable patches on here. But, you know, goodness. Okay, but he also had a lot of pins on here too. And some on the back from all kinds of different states. So, you know, and a lot of these kind of CB patches too, right? And trucker patches. And so I just kind of imagined this cool story of this guy traveling around. And I just knew somebody would be, who's into this kind of Americana and cool stuff like I am, might be interested in it. And so I looked up others in a similar kind of space, and they were right around the $100 mark. So I listed this for $88, and I think that's what we got. And we got asking for that on $88, and it sold in 40 days. But as I was saying, this wasn't a barn, and it was just stuffed in the back with all these like old trucker hats, and it was like super dirty and had crap all over it, and like he didn't even care. And I think the dude gave it to me for like $1 because it was like his great grandfather's or something like that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. Please subscribe and like this if you're getting anything out of it, and I will catch you later. Ciao for now.